welcome to another episode of Amanda Homestead. My name is Amanda, and today I am standing in front of my absolutely massive elderberry bush. I've got a few plants in there and they just love this spot and they always take over. So I get tons of elderberries in kind of the late summer, and I use them to make elderberry syrup, to make elderberry wine, lots of different things. However, I always want to make sure that I come out here when the flowers are blooming and take some of those flowers so that I can make elderflower wine. And that's what we're going to be doing today. Okay, so first of all, what you need is, if you have access to an elderberry bush, then you're going to want to come out when the flowers are blooming and you're going to want to pick some flowers. Okay, so we are going to pick enough flowers to make a 1 gallon or roughly 4-liter batch of wine. That's about 6 bottles, your standard bottles. So I'm going to start by picking about 25 regular size flower heads. That's about enough to give me about 2 cups or 500 milliliters of flower petals when we're all done. All right, so I'm going to do that to start with, and then we'll come back and show you kind of what we do with them. Okay, here is our kind of elderflowers, and they smell absolutely beautiful. But what we want to do now is we want to get these petals off these kind of stems. And for that, I'm going to use a really kind of large fork. And then I'm just going to kind of run the fork alongside the petals, pull up, and then bring those petals into my bowl here until I've got 2 cups or 500 milliliters of loosely packed petals. Okay, so here are our ingredients to make our wine, at least what we're going to start with. So we have our elderflower petals, which smells so lovely. And we're going to do 2 cups or 500 mils loosely packed flowers. We've got 100 grams of chopped sultana or golden raisins. And we've got the zest of 1 unwaxed lemon. If you can only find waxed lemons, you can always just kind of wash your lemon under hot water to get rid of the wax. And then the juice of that same lemon. Okay, so we're going to pour in our flowers. We're going to put in our raisins. And this is a 1 gallon sterilized bucket. Okay, very important to make sure that all your equipment is sterilized when you're making wine so that you won't get any contamination. In goes our lemon juice. And lastly, our lemon zest. And this extra things just kind of give a little bit more body and a little bit more balance to the wine that the flowers just don't have by themselves. And then to this, we are going to add 1 kilogram of sugar. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pour 4 liters or a gallon of boiling water on top of this. And then we're going to give it a stir, just to make sure that all that sugar is dissolved. And then I'm going to cover this up. Make sure it's nicely sealed and let that infuse for 24 hours. Okay? Now, I don't really need this airlock on this yet, but I just want to seal up this hole in this lid so that way no air gets in here, because we want to make sure this is contaminant free before we then filter it and then pitch our yeast. Okay, so we're going to come back in 24 hours when we're ready to kind of filter out this and then add the yeast. Okay, so our batch of elderflower wine has been infusing for 24 hours. And now what we're going to do is we're going to strain it out. Okay, so what I've got here is a pot that's going to be enough to hold all the liquid. This pot has also been sterilized. I have a colander and I have some cheesecloth that I have also sterilized, okay? And I'm using a sulfur potassium metabisulfite solution to sterilize everything. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour this infused elderberry kind of sugar water through the cheesecloth. And then I'm going to gently fold this over. And I'm going to give it a squeeze because I want to get out all that good juice. Or liquid, I guess. This is not really juice. But regardless, I want it all. And I've got my nice strained liquid. I'm going to rinse out and re-sanitize my original bucket here. I'm going to pour the liquid back in. One ingredient I forgot to mention I'm also going to add is a cup of cold tea, and that's going to give this a nice tannin, which kind of adds a little bit more interest to the flavor. Okay, this is optional, but I like to do it. Okay, so I'm going to put a cup of cold tea in here. I'm going to give that a stir with a sterilized or sanitized spoon. Okay, and now we are ready to throw in our yeast. Okay, so any kind of a wine yeast will do. I think this one's probably good for sparkling cider. It's not what I'm going to be using it for. I'm not going to make a sparkling product, or although you could, I'm not going to do that. But I find this is not too picky, and I'm going to put in about half this package. Okay, I'm just going to sprinkle that over the top. I'm going to put this in a Ziploc bag and put it in the fridge to store it until I'm making my next small batch. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my lid on here, and I have my airlock, which is going to seal this up. Okay, and then I'm going to seal the lid. And so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into kind of a cool, or not too cool, but kind of like a cool room temperature room that's dark, and you should start to see some fermentation happening with the next couple of days. We'll come back and have a look at it when it starts to ferment. So it's been a few more days than I intended before we're going to come back and have a look at our elderflower wine. But let's see, it's been about a week. Let's see what's going on with it. Okay, so we've got my rhubarb wine, which is ready to be bottled, on the left, and our elderflower wine, which is about a week into its fermentation, on the right. So we will kind of just gently pry the lid off. Don't do this too often because you want a little bit of oxygen getting in there, but not too much. Otherwise, it can encourage mold and other things that you don't want that'll give you off flavors. All right, so we're gonna gently pry the lid up. We'll have a little look at it. So it looks like the fermentation may be done. Oh no, there's still bubbles in there. I kind of bring you nice and close. You can kind of see it's sparkling. And it smells like wine. Super awesome. So I'm going to leave that elderflower wine for another week, and then I'm going to rack it to a smaller kind of bottle. All right, so what we'll do is I'll do a second video to kind of show you the second half of the process, where we rack it to another bottle. We leave it for about 6 weeks in total, and then we'll put it into our wine bottles. All right, everybody, hope you enjoyed this episode, and that maybe you'll think about trying an elderflower wine. I think it's a great thing to do if you have an elderberry bush, which can go a bit crazy. Then this way you can kind of use up some of those flowers. All right, if you enjoyed this episode, please press the subscribe button, and we'll see you again soon. All right, bye-bye.